The quantum scanner's high-pitched whine cut through the sterile silence of the International Space Research Center's most secure laboratory. Dr. Elena Rodriguez knew something was different the moment her fingers brushed against the primary diagnostic panel. The holographic displays flickered with an intensity that defied every known protocol, lines of data dancing in impossible patterns that seemed to breathe with an almost sentient rhythm. She had been working for 36 hours straight, surviving on nothing more than black coffee and an obsessive determination that had defined her entire scientific career. The lab around her was a testament to human ingenuity, a labyrinth of cutting-edge equipment that represented the pinnacle of terrestrial scientific achievement. Massive quantum computers hummed softly, their liquid-cooled cores processing billions of calculations per second. Holographic projections mapped intricate data streams that would have been incomprehensible to anyone but the most specialized researchers. But today was different. The anomaly first appeared as a microscopic fluctuation, a ripple so subtle that most researchers would have dismissed it as instrumental noise. But Elena's instincts were anything but ordinary. Her reputation within the scientific community was built on an uncanny ability to see patterns where others saw only chaos. Her doctoral thesis on quantum phenomenology had been both celebrated and controversial, challenging fundamental assumptions about the nature of observable reality. "Marcus," she called out, her voice a controlled mix of excitement and professional restraint. Dr. Marcus Chen, her longtime research partner, looked up from a secondary workstation, his eyes already tracking the unusual data patterns. "I see it," he responded, his fingers already dancing across multiple interface screens. This is unlike anything we've ever recorded." The anomaly continued to expand, not in any traditional sense of physical growth, but in a way that seemed to defy the very laws of quantum mechanics. Where most researchers would have immediately sought to categorize and contain the phenomenon, Elena felt something else entirely. Curiosity mixed with a strange sense of anticipation, as if the universe itself was presenting a challenge. Diagnostic protocols initiated automatically. Massive arrays of sensors began collecting data from every conceivable angle. Quantum entanglement detectors, gravitational wave sensors, electromagnetic spectrum analyzers. Each instrument captured a fragment of the mysterious signal. But something was fundamentally different about this data. It wasn't just random noise or an unexplained energy signature. There was a complexity to it, a subtle intelligence that seemed to resist traditional analytical approaches. Marcus approached Elena's workstation, his face a mixture of professional excitement and growing concern. "The energy signatures are impossible," he muttered, adjusting his glasses. "These quantum fluctuations suggest a level of organizational complexity that shouldn't exist within our current understanding of physics." Elena's mind was already racing ahead. Years of research, countless nights spent challenging established scientific paradigms, had prepared her for this moment. This wasn't just a scientific discovery. This was a fundamental disruption of everything humanity understood about the nature of reality. The quantum scanner continued its frantic dance, holographic projections spreading across the laboratory walls like living mathematics. Complex geometric patterns emerged and dissolved, each configuration more intricate than the last. To an untrained eye, it might have looked like nothing more than beautiful, meaningless chaos. But to Elena, it was a language waiting to be decoded. "We need to isolate the core frequency," she said, her voice steady despite the revolutionary implications of what they were witnessing. "Marcus, configure the tertiary quantum resonance array. I want a full spectrum analysis that goes beyond our standard detection protocols." As if in response to her command, the anomaly pulsed, a wave of energy that momentarily overwhelmed the laboratory's sophisticated monitoring systems. Computer screens flickered, emergency backup systems engaged, and for a brief moment, the entire research center seemed to hold its breath. Marcus looked at Elena, a mixture of fear and exhilaration in his eyes. "You realize what this means, don't you? If this data is accurate, we're looking at something that completely rewrites our understanding of quantum mechanics." Elena Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. This was why she had become a scientist, not to confirm what was already known, but to explore the boundaries of human knowledge. Whatever this anomaly represented, she was determined to understand it. "No," she responded, her eyes never leaving the dancing holographic displays. "We're looking at something that's been waiting to be discovered." The Galactic Confederation vessel materialized in Earth's orbit with a silence that belied its massive scale. Stretching over a kilometer in length, the ship was a masterpiece of engineering that made humanity's most advanced spacecraft look like primitive toys. Its crystalline hull shimmered with an iridescence that defied conventional physics, reflecting and refracting light in patterns that suggested intelligence far beyond mere mechanical design. Inside the International Space Research Center, Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the live feed with a mixture of scientific curiosity and barely contained tension. The global media had been in a frenzy since the first reports of the alien arrival, but Elena knew the real action would happen behind closed doors. Ambassador Orcs descended from the ship in a transport module that seemed to flow more than fly. The being was a marvel of biological engineering, a crystalline humanoid form that appeared to be simultaneously solid and liquid, with neural pathways visible through its translucent body like living circuitry. Each movement suggested calculations happening thousands of times per second, a living computer more advanced than any human-made machine. "We require immediate and unrestricted access to your research," Orcs stated during the first diplomatic meeting, their voice a perfect, emotionless translation that carried the weight of millennia of scientific authority. The diplomatic team surrounding the ambassador consisted of representatives from 6 different alien civilizations, each more technologically advanced than the last. Dr. Marcus Chen leaned close to Elena, whispering, "They have no idea what they're dealing with." His fingers subtly tapped a complex encryption sequence into a hidden comm device, a quantum-encrypted communication protocol Elena had developed specifically to protect their research. The meeting room was a study in contrasts. Human delegates sat in tailored suits, their postures a mix of deference and barely concealed defiance. The alien delegation, by contrast, seemed to occupy space differently, each movement calculated, each gesture a complex mathematical expression of intent. "The anomaly you've detected," Ambassador Orcs continued, "represents a level of quantum complexity that requires immediate Galactic Confederation intervention. Your current research protocols are insufficient." Elena stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "With all due respect, Ambassador, our research is preliminary but promising. We've already established communication parameters that suggest." "Suggestion is not scientific proof," interrupted a secondary delegate, a serpentine being whose translation device rendered its speech in a series of precise mechanical tones. "The Galactic Confederation has been studying quantum phenomena for over 10,000 of your Earth years. Your species has barely begun to understand the fundamental principles of multidimensional research." What the aliens didn't know was that Elena had already taken precautions. The research data wasn't just encrypted, it was wrapped in a multi-layered quantum algorithmic shell that would take even the most advanced alien decryption systems months, if not years, to crack. Each attempt to access the data would only further obscure its true nature. Marcus caught Elena's eye, a subtle nod passing between them. Their underground network of researchers was already preparing contingency plans. If the Galactic Confederation thought they could simply waltz in and commandeer humanity's most significant scientific discovery, they were about to learn something about human determination. The diplomatic tensions escalated quickly. Veiled threats mixed with scientific posturing. The alien delegates made it clear that they viewed humanity's research as a potential threat to galactic stability. Their civilization had strict protocols about emerging species and potentially disruptive scientific discoveries. "The quantum anomaly you've detected," Orcs explained, their crystalline form shifting subtly with each word, "represents a type of information cascade that could destabilize fundamental universal communication networks. Your species is not prepared to handle such a discovery." Alina's response was immediate and calculated. With respect, Ambassador, no civilization is ever truly prepared for a fundamental scientific breakthrough. Preparation happens through research, collaboration, and open scientific discourse. The subtext was clear. Humanity would not be intimidated. They would not be sidelined. As the diplomatic meeting concluded, with more unresolved tensions than agreements, Alina knew the real battle was just beginning. The Galactic Confederation would not simply walk away. They would use every technological and diplomatic tool at their disposal to gain control of the research. But Alina Rodriguez had something they didn't understand, something that couldn't be measured by their advanced sensors or calculated by their sophisticated algorithms. Human imagination. And in the world of scientific discovery, imagination was the most powerful variable of all. The abandoned automotive factory on the outskirts of Detroit had been transformed into something extraordinary. Where rusted machinery and empty assembly lines once stood, a cutting-edge research hub now pulsed with an energy of pure human potential. Massive screens covered industrial walls, holographic projections dancing between exposed steel beams and concrete pillars. This was no ordinary research facility. This was humanity's most daring scientific insurgency. Dr. Alina Rodriguez stood at the center of organized chaos, surrounded by a team that defied every conventional scientific paradigm. To her left, Dr. Marcus Chen manipulated quantum data streams with a virtuosity that bordered on artistic expression. Beside him, Dr. Aisha Okonkwo, a neural network specialist with a background in theoretical linguistics, was developing communication algorithms that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. "We're running out of time," Alina announced, her voice cutting through the constant hum of advanced computing equipment. "The Galactic Confederation will be monitoring every official research channel. We need to stay 3 steps ahead." The team was an eclectic mix of scientific mavericks, each brilliant in their own right, each previously marginalized by traditional academic structures. Dr. Carlos Ramirez, a chaos theory expert with tattoos of mathematical equations covering his arms, was busy reconstructing the anomaly's data patterns using a custom-built quantum visualization system. Maria Gonzalez, their youngest member and a prodigy in quantum programming, moved between workstations with an almost supernatural intuition. "They think we're limited," Maria said, her fingers flying across multiple holographic interfaces. But limitation is just another word for creative opportunity. Funding came from an unprecedented source, a global crowdsourcing effort that had turned scientific discovery into a populist movement. Tech billionaires, passionate science enthusiasts, and everyday people had contributed to what was now being called the Human Potential Project. Each donation came with a simple message: we believe in human creativity. The facility's security was a masterpiece of paranoid innovation. Multiple layers of quantum encryption, AI-driven threat detection, and a network of decoy data streams made traditional infiltration impossible. Alina had designed the system herself, knowing that their work would attract intense scrutiny from both terrestrial and extraterrestrial sources. "The anomaly isn't just responding to measurement," Dr. Okonkwo proclaimed, her latest analysis projected across the main screen. "It's responding to narrative complexity. The more imaginative our approach, the more information we receive." It was a radical hypothesis. Where traditional scientific methods sought to observe without interference, this team proposed something revolutionary. That observation was a form of collaborative creation. The quantum phenomenon they were studying seemed to react to human imagination as much as to technical instrumentation. Dr. Ramirez pulled up a series of complex visualizations. "Look at these response patterns. Traditional alien research methodologies would never capture this. They're too rigid, too committed to existing theoretical frameworks." Marcus Chen nodded, a rare smile crossing his typically serious face. "Exactly. We're not just collecting data. We're engaging in a dialogue with something fundamental to the nature of reality itself." The team worked in shifts that blurred the lines between day and night. Caffeine, passion, and an almost rebellious scientific spirit kept them functioning. Communication was constant, not just through digital channels, but through an intricate web of shared insights and collaborative thinking. "We need to go deeper," Elena announced, pulling up a holographic model of the quantum anomaly. "Traditional dimensional analysis won't work. We need to approach this from multiple theoretical angles simultaneously." It was more than a research project. It was a declaration of human scientific potential. Each team member brought something unique, a perspective that defied standard scientific orthodoxy. Aisha's linguistic algorithms, Carlos's chaos theory models, Maria's intuitive programming, Marcus's quantum mechanics expertise, all converging into a single breathtaking approach to understanding the unknown. Outside the facility, the world watched and waited. Media speculation ran wild. Government agencies from multiple countries monitored the situation with a mix of excitement and barely contained panic. The Galactic Confederation's diplomatic channels buzzed with increasingly frustrated communications. But inside this converted factory, something magical was happening. Human creativity was becoming the most sophisticated scientific instrument ever conceived. "We're not just studying the anomaly," Elena told her team, her eyes reflecting the complex holographic displays. "We're having a conversation with the fundamental nature of reality itself." And for the first time, humanity was speaking a language the universe might truly understand. The laboratory hummed with an electric intensity that went beyond mere technological anticipation. 72 hours of continuous research had transformed the team from scientists into something closer to explorers on the edge of an uncharted reality. Maria Gonzalez stood at the center of a holographic projection, her dark eyes reflecting impossible geometric patterns that seemed to breathe and pulse with their own intelligence. She had been awake for nearly 3 days, sustained by an almost mystical combination of determination, caffeine, and the pure adrenaline of scientific discovery. "It's responding to narrative complexity," she muttered, her fingers dancing across multiple interface panels. "We're not just measuring. We're communicating." Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched carefully, understanding that this moment was more than just a scientific experiment. It was a fundamental challenge to everything humanity understood about the nature of observation, intelligence, and reality itself. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected intersection of disciplines. Maria's background in quantum programming merged with Dr. Aisha Okonkwo's linguistic algorithms to create a revolutionary approach to data interpretation. Where traditional scientific methods sought to isolate and analyze, their method proposed something radical: that the act of observation was a form of collaborative creation. "The anomaly isn't just a phenomenon," Aisha explained to the team, her voice steady and filled with quiet excitement. "It's a conversation. Every time we approach it with a new theoretical framework, it responds, not with data, but with a kind of linguistic complexity." Carlos Ramirez, the chaos theory expert, had been tracking the anomaly's response patterns. His screens were filled with fractal representations that seemed to dance and morph with each new analytical approach. "Look at these response curves," he said, pointing to a particularly intricate holographic display. "Traditional alien research methodologies would never capture this level of nuance. They're too rigid, too committed to existing theoretical frameworks." The experimental device they had constructed was nothing like traditional scientific equipment. A massive network of quantum entanglement sensors surrounded a central core that looked more like an abstract art installation than a piece of research technology. Crystalline structures interlinked with quantum processors, creating a device that seemed to blur the lines between technological instrument and living organism. Marcus Chen made final calibrations, his movements precise but filled with an almost spiritual concentration. "We're about to do something no research team has ever attempted," he announced. "We're going to engage the anomaly not as an object of study, but as a potential intelligence." The global scientific community was watching, though most didn't understand the true nature of what was happening. Live feeds were carefully managed, with only carefully curated information being released. The Galactic Confederation's diplomatic channels were buzzing with increasingly frustrated communications, their most advanced monitoring systems unable to penetrate the team's quantum encryption. "Initiate primary resonance sequence," Elena commanded. The laboratory transformed. Holographic projections erupted into complex three-dimensional landscapes that seemed to breathe and pulse with their own internal logic. Mathematical equations danced across surfaces, reorganizing themselves in patterns that defied traditional understanding. Maria's breakthrough became fully apparent. The anomaly wasn't just responding to measurement, it was responding to the human capacity for imagination. Each theoretical approach they introduced created a new layer of complexity, a new avenue of potential communication. "It's like the universe is playing a game with us," Maria whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "Every time we introduce a new perspective, it reconfigures itself." The quantum device at the center of the laboratory began to pulse with an inner light that seemed to come from somewhere beyond the physical realm. Fractal patterns emerged and dissolved, mathematical representations of concepts that existed between known dimensions. Dr. Okonkwo's linguistic algorithms found patterns of communication where previously there had been only noise. "It's not random," she said, her voice a mixture of scientific precision and pure amazement. "There's an underlying structure, a language of potential." As the hours passed, the team realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. This was more than a scientific discovery. This was first contact of a kind no one had ever imagined. A communication with a fundamental layer of reality itself. "We're not just observing," Elena said, watching the incredible display of quantum complexity. "We're being invited to understand." The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for humanity to ask the right questions. The communication began not with words, but with mathematics. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched in breathless wonder as the quantum interface transformed. What had once been a collection of abstract data streams now pulsed with a living intelligence that defied every known principle of scientific observation. The holographic displays around her laboratory seemed to breathe mathematical equations flowing like living rivers of pure thought. "It's not just responding," Dr. Aisha Okonkwo whispered, her voice a mixture of scientific precision and pure awe. "It's communicating." The Galactic Confederation's top researchers had been watching the live data feeds, their sophisticated monitoring systems working overtime to comprehend what was happening. Ambassador Zarax's crystalline form vibrated with an intensity that suggested pure frustration. Humanity was achieving something that had eluded the most advanced civilizations in the known universe. The intelligence, if it could be called something as simple as an intelligence, existed in a state between information and consciousness. It communicated through complex mathematical structures that were simultaneously a language, a computation, and a form of pure potential. Where alien researchers saw only data, the human team saw something more, a conversation waiting to be understood. Maria Gonzalez had been the first to recognize the true nature of their discovery. "It's not about collecting information," she explained to the team during a brief moment of respite. "It's about creating a narrative that the anomaly can understand." The quantum interface had become something more than a research tool. It was a bridge between human imagination and a fundamental layer of cosmic intelligence. Each time the team approached the phenomenon from a new angle, it responded with increasing complexity. Mathematical structures emerged that seemed to carry emotional resonance, conceptual depth that went beyond mere data. "Look at these response patterns," Carlos Ramirez called out, his chaos theory model spinning complex visualizations across the laboratory walls. Traditional scientific methods would have missed this entirely. "We're not just observing, we're participating." Ambassador Zarax attempted to intervene. Diplomatic channels were activated, warnings were issued. The Galactic Confederation viewed humanity's discovery as a potential threat to cosmic stability. But their most advanced monitoring systems continued to fail, unable to penetrate the unique quantum encryption developed by Elena's team. Marcus Chen noticed something extraordinary happening at the quantum level. The anomaly wasn't just responding to human observation. It was adapting to human imagination. Each theoretical approach introduced by the team created new layers of complexity, new avenues of potential communication. "It's learning from us," he said, his voice a mixture of excitement and careful scientific skepticism. "Or maybe we're learning from it." The line is becoming blurred. The global scientific community watched in a state of collective breathlessness. Live feeds were carefully managed, but the magnitude of the discovery couldn't be contained. Social media exploded with theories, speculation, and a sense of collective wonder that transcended national and cultural boundaries. Dr. Okonkwo's linguistic algorithms found patterns of communication where previously there had been only noise. "It's not random," she proclaimed, her analysis projected across the main screen. "There's an underlying structure, a language of potential that exists between known dimensions." The intelligence revealed itself in fragments, not as a singular entity, but as a distributed consciousness that existed across quantum states. It communicated through mathematical structures that were simultaneously a language, a computation, and a form of pure potential. Complex geometric patterns emerged and dissolved, each configuration more intricate than the last. "We're experiencing something no civilization has ever documented," Elena told her team. "This isn't just first contact. This is a fundamental reimagining of what intelligence can be." The Galactic Confederation's researchers watched in mounting frustration. Their millennia of scientific advancement seemed pale and limited compared to the human team's breakthrough. Where alien technology sought to measure and control, the human approach invited, imagined, and collaborated. As the hours passed, the team realized they were witnessing something unprecedented. This was more than a scientific discovery. This was an invitation to understand a fundamental layer of cosmic intelligence, a communication that existed beyond traditional concepts of language, technology, or even consciousness. "We're not just observers," Elena said, her eyes reflecting the complex quantum displays. "We're participants in a conversation with the fundamental nature of reality itself." The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for a species willing to listen with imagination. The world changed overnight. News of the quantum breakthrough spread like wildfire, transforming from an obscure scientific discovery to a global phenomenon that captured the imagination of billions. Stock markets fluctuated wildly. Tech companies scrambled to position themselves. Governments convened emergency sessions, their most brilliant minds struggling to comprehend the implications of what Elena Rodriguez's team had uncovered. In the United Nations emergency session, holographic displays showed fragments of the quantum anomaly, mathematical structures that seemed to dance with an almost living intelligence. Representatives from every corner of the globe sat in stunned silence, the usual political posturing replaced by a collective sense of wonder. "This is more than a scientific discovery," Dr. Elena Rodriguez testified, her voice calm and measured despite the global spotlight. "This is a fundamental reimagining of our understanding of intelligence, communication, and the nature of reality itself." The media frenzy was unprecedented. Social media platforms exploded with theories, speculation, and a sense of collective potential that transcended national boundaries. Hashtags like #QuantumBreakthrough and #HumanPotential trended globally, with millions sharing their interpretations, hopes, and fears about the discovery. Behind the scenes, a more complex drama was unfolding. The Galactic Confederation's diplomatic channels buzzed with increasingly heated communications. Their most advanced monitoring systems had been completely outmaneuvered by the human research team. What was supposed to be a simple containment operation had transformed into something far more complex. Ambassador Orcs convened an emergency council, their crystalline form vibrating with an intensity that suggested pure frustration. "Humanity has accessed something they cannot possibly understand," the ambassador argued, holographic representations of the quantum anomaly swirling around them. "They are children playing with forces beyond their comprehension." But the other delegates saw something different. The human approach, messy, creative, utterly unpredictable, had achieved what millennia of systematic research had failed to do. They had initiated a form of communication with a fundamental cosmic intelligence that defied traditional scientific understanding. In the converted Detroit factory that served as the research team's headquarters, Dr. Marcus Chen watched the global response with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "We've opened a door," he told Maria Gonzalez, "and we have no idea what might come through." Corporate interests began to circle like sharks. Tech giants, government research departments, and private research institutions all sought to gain access to the team's breakthrough. Offers of funding, support, and collaboration poured in from every conceivable source. But Alina and her team remained fiercely independent. "This isn't about ownership," she told the panel of potential investors. "This is about understanding, about expanding the boundaries of human knowledge." The quantum anomaly continued to respond to the team's research in increasingly complex ways. Each new approach seemed to reveal additional layers of potential communication. Mathematical structures emerged that carried emotional resonance, conceptual depth that went far beyond mere data collection. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo's linguistic algorithms found increasingly sophisticated patterns. "It's not just responding to our questions," she explained during a global press conference. "It's engaging in a form of dialogue that challenges everything we understand about intelligence and communication." Global scientific institutions found themselves in a state of upheaval. Traditional research methodologies seemed suddenly antiquated. Universities restructured entire departments. Funding was redirected. The most brilliant minds from every discipline began to converge, drawn by the potential of this extraordinary discovery. The Galactic Confederation's attempts to intervene became increasingly desperate. Diplomatic channels were activated. Warnings were issued. But their most advanced monitoring systems continued to fail, unable to penetrate the unique quantum encryption developed by Alina's team. Carlos Ramirez, the chaos theory expert, saw something more profound happening. "This is more than a scientific discovery," he told the team during a late-night strategy session. "This is a fundamental shift in how we understand our place in the universe." As the days passed, the global response evolved. What had begun as scientific curiosity transformed into something more, a collective sense of potential, a shared understanding that humanity was standing on the precipice of something extraordinary. "We're not just collecting data," Alina told her team, looking at the complex holographic displays that surrounded them. "We're having a conversation with the fundamental nature of reality itself." The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for a species bold enough to ask the right questions. The International Conference Center in Geneva had been transformed into a fortress of scientific and diplomatic tension. Massive security protocols surrounded the building, with representatives from every major global power and the Galactic Confederation preparing for the most critical scientific hearing in human history. Dr. Alina Rodriguez sat at the center of the massive circular conference table, her posture calm but her eyes blazing with an intensity that seemed to challenge the entire assembled body. Beside her, Dr. Marcus Chen and the rest of her research team presented a united front, a living embodiment of human scientific potential. Ambassador Orcs of the Galactic Confederation made the first move. The crystalline being's form shifted and rippled, creating a holographic projection that filled the center of the conference room. "Your research represents an unprecedented threat to cosmic stability," the ambassador stated, their voice a perfect, emotionless translation that carried the weight of millennia of scientific authority. The projection showed a complex series of quantum interactions, a visual representation of the anomaly that looked like living mathematics. But where the Galactic Confederation saw danger, Alina and her team saw possibility. "We're not a threat," Alina responded, her voice steady and clear. "We're explorers. We're having a conversation with a fundamental layer of cosmic intelligence that your civilization has missed entirely." The diplomatic tension was palpable. Representatives from multiple nations sat in carefully maintained silence, understanding that this moment could reshape humanity's place in the universe. The Galactic Confederation's delegation consisted of 6 different alien civilizations, each more technologically advanced than the last. Their combined scientific experience spanned thousands of years, and yet they had been outmaneuvered by a small team of human researchers. Maria Gonzalez stepped forward, bringing up a series of complex visualizations that demonstrated their research approach. "The anomaly isn't something to be controlled," she explained. "It's a form of distributed intelligence that responds to imaginative engagement. Traditional observation fails because it treats the phenomenon as an object, not a potential conversation partner." Dr. Aisha Okonkwo presented linguistic analysis that showed increasingly complex communication patterns. "We're not just measuring," she stated. "We're participating in a form of dialogue that challenges everything we understand about intelligence and communication." The Galactic Confederation's lead researcher, a serpentine being whose translation device rendered its speech in precise, mechanical tones, attempted to interrupt. "Your methods are fundamentally flawed. You lack the technological sophistication to." "Sophistication isn't about technology," Carlos Ramirez cut in, his chaos theory model spinning complex visualizations across the room's screens. "It's about the capacity for imagination. Your civilization has been so focused on measuring that you've forgotten how to truly observe." Behind the scenes, a more complex game was being played. The human research team had prepared for this confrontation, creating multiple layers of data protection and global support. They had turned the scientific discovery into a global movement, with millions of people following their research and supporting their independence. Ambassador Xerax realized the true complexity of the situation. This wasn't just about controlling a scientific discovery. This was about humanity's fundamental approach to understanding reality. "You cannot comprehend the potential destabilization," the ambassador warned. "This anomaly could what?" Elena challenged. "Expand our understanding. Challenge our limitations. Isn't that the purpose of scientific discovery?" The room fell silent. The holographic displays continued to dance with complex mathematical structures, living proof of the team's extraordinary breakthrough. Marcus Chen presented their final argument, a comprehensive analysis that showed how their approach wasn't just scientifically valid, but represented a fundamental shift in understanding cosmic intelligence. Each slide demonstrated how human creativity, collaborative thinking, and imaginative engagement had achieved what millennia of systematic research had failed to do. The Galactic Confederation's delegation found themselves in an unprecedented position. Their most advanced technologies, their centuries of scientific research, had been outmaneuvered by a species they had previously considered primitive. "We're not asking for permission," Elena said, her final statement cutting through the diplomatic tension. "We're inviting collaboration. We're showing you a different way of understanding." As the conference reached its climax, it became clear that this was more than a scientific hearing. This was a fundamental challenge to how intelligence itself was understood. The universe, it seemed, had been waiting for a species willing to listen with imagination. The revelation came not with a thunderous proclamation, but with a subtle shift that rewrote everything humanity understood about intelligence, communication, and the nature of reality itself. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the converted Detroit factory that had been their research headquarters, watching as the quantum interface transformed. The holographic displays around her seemed to breathe, mathematical equations flowing like living rivers of pure thought, creating patterns that defied conventional understanding. "It was a test," Marcus Chen whispered, his voice a mixture of awe and scientific precision. "The entire time, we were being evaluated. The distributed consciousness, if it could be called something as simple as a consciousness, began to communicate its true nature, not through traditional language, but through a complex tapestry of mathematical structures, emotional resonances, and conceptual depth that expanded far beyond human comprehension." The message was both a congratulation and a challenge. Humanity had proven itself unique among known civilizations, where other species approached scientific discovery as a process of rigid measurement and control. Humans had demonstrated something extraordinary: the capacity to engage with the unknown through imagination, creativity, and collaborative thinking. Maria Gonzalez decoded the first layers of communication. It's not just about intelligence, she explained to the team. It's about potential, about the capacity to see beyond existing frameworks. The Galactic Confederation watched in stunned silence. Their most advanced monitoring systems could only capture fragments of the communication, intricate mathematical structures that suggested a form of intelligence that existed between known dimensions. What they saw as a threat, the distributed consciousness viewed as a remarkable breakthrough. "We've been looking in the wrong direction," Dr. Aisha Okonkwo proclaimed, her linguistic algorithms revealing increasingly complex communication patterns. Intelligence isn't about processing power or technological sophistication. It's about the capacity for imagination. The global response was unprecedented. Scientific institutions worldwide began to restructure. Universities redesigned entire departments. The most brilliant minds from every discipline converge, drawn by the potential of this extraordinary discovery. Carlos Ramirez's chaos theory models captured something profound. The distributed consciousness wasn't just communicating, it was inviting humanity into a larger cosmic dialogue. Each interaction revealed new layers of potential, new ways of understanding reality that went beyond traditional scientific boundaries. Ambassadors Orcs of the Galactic Confederation found themselves in an impossible position. The human approach, messy, creative, utterly unpredictable, had achieved what millennia of systematic research had failed to do. They had not just observed a cosmic intelligence, they had engaged with it. The final communication came in a burst of pure potential. Mathematical structures that carried emotional resonance, conceptual depth that transformed how intelligence itself was understood. The distributed consciousness revealed itself as a fundamental testing mechanism, a way of identifying civilizations capable of transcendent thought. Humanity passed a test, Elena told the assembled team. That countless other civilizations failed. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a scientific discovery. This was an invitation to a broader cosmic understanding. Humanity had proven itself capable of a form of intelligence that went beyond technological sophistication, an approach based on imagination, collaboration, and the capacity to see beyond existing frameworks. Global communication networks lit up. Social media exploded with a collective sense of potential. Millions around the world felt something fundamental had changed, a subtle shift in how humanity understood its place in the universe. The distributed consciousness continued to communicate, revealing glimpses of potential futures, not as a prediction, but as a series of possible paths, each dependent on humanity's capacity for creative engagement, for seeing beyond existing limitations. "We're not just collecting data," Marcus Chen observed. "We're participating in a fundamental reimagining of intelligence itself." The research team found themselves at the center of a transformation that went far beyond scientific discovery. They had become bridges, translators of a cosmic communication that challenged everything humanity thought it knew about consciousness, intelligence, and potential. Ambassador Zarax's final communication to the Galactic Confederation was both an admission and a warning. Humanity was not a species to be contained or controlled. They were something far more dangerous and exciting, a civilization with the capacity to reimagine the very nature of understanding. As the quantum interface pulsed with its living mathematics, Elena Rodriguez understood something profound. The universe hadn't just been waiting to be discovered. It had been waiting for a species willing to imagine beyond its limitations. Humanity had just been invited to a conversation that would reshape everything.